So yeah, I feel like we have everybody who said that they were going to come. So maybe we can get started and see who else trickles in. So hi, everybody. Welcome to this month's community call. It's December tomorrow, not today, but we're almost there. So probably the second to or last community call of the year. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to make it. So Shelby, do you just want to quickly review moderation stuff and maybe talk, just share what we were just talking about on Telegram regarding the scheduling for the last community call of the year?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Great to see everyone. If you've been here before, you know the drill. If you have a question, feel free to write it in the chat. If you would like to unmute yourself, which most of the core team should already be unmuted, and I'll keep an eye on as people join. But if you're not from the core team and would like to speak, please just request to speak or write your question in the chat. The call will be recorded. The recording has already started. I will, regarding the last community call, Abby and I were thinking, or we wanted to ask what folks thought about either canceling or moving or not the December community call. It's scheduled for the 28th of December currently. We'll send around a Discord poll to settle that one, but just wanted to shout it out so folks are aware or can already start thinking about it.
Cool, awesome. So yeah, everybody be sure to check out that poll and just give us yes or a no on if you think we should reschedule that, since it comes between the awkward in-between time of Christmas and New Year's. Okay, cool. So then we can just get started. I heard that we have a couple of hefty updates today, so why don't we just jump right into it? I'll pass it off to Cloudhead from Clients to kick us off. Are you speaking, Cloudhead? Are you having trouble speaking?
Yeah, okay, great.
There we go.
Okay. All right, let me just present. All right. Okay, is that showing up? Yeah, that looks like it's showing up. Cool. Yeah, so the update for the clients team, which is getting ever larger, which means the updates are also going to be getting longer. So a little overview. We're working obviously on the new Heartwood protocol upgrade. It's more than an upgrade; it's a rewrite, and we're on track for an internal release in January, maybe end of December. We'll see, which at least the team can start playing around with. So that's pretty exciting. This month we merged about 50 PRs within Heartwood and Radical Git, and 30 PRs in Radical Interface. We've actually completed the port of a lot of the product stuff from the old protocol to the new one. Yeah, there's supposed to be something. Is no one seeing it? I can see.
I see it. Yep.
I can see
That's
it
a new
myself.
problem.
Okay. Anyone else having issues? Or is it showing up? Okay, great. Starting with product changes or updates. On the web, we have a new router implementation that is our own. And the cool thing about this is that it's going to allow IPFS deployments of the web app. So now that we have this, we can move to, I forget what it's called, but this thing that is not Netlify, which is what we're using right now. And runs on IPFS. We can also host it ourselves on our own IPFS node and stuff like that. So that's cool. And then there's been some other nice improvements around Markdown files. There's code font switching. Yeah, load time improvements, testing, lots of nice stuff. On the CLI, most of the Radical CLI has been ported to Heartwood. By most, I mean not the Ethereum stuff. Essentially, there were a few Ethereum related commands that we didn't port because we want to figure out essentially what we want to do with those on the product level. But pretty much everything else that made sense to port was ported. And we've started to work on a rad delegate command for managing project delegates, since a bunch of people have been asking for, how do I add a delegate to my project? So I think it's time that we start on this. On the technology side, lots of changes to collaborative objects. We've ported the Git backend for COBS from Radical Link to Heartwood. That was quite a bit of work. That's done and that's working. And we have a new CRDT crate library that is essentially going to replace AutoMerge. That is pretty exciting. And we've already ported the patch and issue COBS to the new CRDT. And that's been working nicely. Needs still a bunch of testing, but yeah, this should be a kind of nice basis for building more collaborative objects in the future with a much easier interface than AutoMerge, and also the ability to validate updates more easily and specify it also more easily. On the Git side, the redesign of Radical Surf is partly done, or almost done, maybe. I don't know, but it's making good progress. And we've already integrated some of that into the new seed node. On the research side, RIP2 is underway, is in draft, that describes a storage layout. And there's some work on DID carry. There's a prototype that has been built. So DID carry is a DID compatible identity system that we're looking at as a potential option, like opt-in identity system for Radical, since the Heartwood based protocol doesn't ship with identity anymore, just public keys. And then on the seed infrastructure, on the node, the Noise XK handshake protocol implementation is done, but not integrated yet. And that's underway. It's quite tricky, requires a bunch of changes, but it's making progress. And then there's some smaller things like Sybil resistance for the node announcements, routing table pruning, and reconnection logic. So the node itself is actually in a pretty good place once we finish the integration with the handshake protocol. And I think most of the work will come once we actually test it, deploy it, and run it and see what happens. Big change on the HTTP API part of the node, because we've merged the Git and the HTTP API services into a single daemon called Radical HTTPD. This is going to be super nice for deployment and everything, because now essentially the Git and the API share the same port. And so we don't need to use this funky 8777 port for stuff. And yeah, there's been some users who have had trouble deploying these things because they've had to deploy on different host names and stuff like that. And so now it's that should all be much easier. Yeah, and then just kind of like a overview of the shift to Heartwood. So before we had kind of stuff spread a little bit in a bunch of places like Radical Link, Radical CLI, client services, and key stores. So these are all essentially deprecated. We're not really going to be supporting them anymore. And then the new structure, essentially, there's a Heartwood repo that is going to have all of the above in different forms, So client services basically becomes HTTPD, and linked becomes node, kind of. Well, linked becomes node. Key store is kind of folded into crypto and SSH, and CLI is CLI. And then we have this new radical Git repository, which is kind of not necessarily, there's nothing radical specific in there really. It's mostly kind of libraries around Git that we use in the various crates and repositories. Yeah, and then kind of next steps, next thing. So finalizing the integration with NoiseXK is kind of the most important one, because that will actually allow us to deploy the node and actually test it and run it, because the Git replication is supposed to run on top of that. So that's kind of a blocker right now. We're working on that. Finalize integration with Tor via SOCKS 5. So this is kind of for nodes that are behind that. They have the option of using Tor, which also brings privacy and lots of latency, but it gives you NAT traversal, so it's kind of nice. Finalize the surf redesign, and then port all of the sort of sysops stuff, like the Docker files and that sort of stuff, to Heartwood, so that we can actually redeploy our nodes on top of latency as a service, so that we can pour everything, all of our nodes to Heartwood, basically. That's about it. So there's some updates on personnel. So we've potentially hired a documentation person who's really, really great. He did the how DAT works and how SSB works, the protocol guides. He's only going to be starting in a few months, but that should be pretty fun. So he's going to help us with our kind of protocol level docs and that sort of thing. And we are ramping up to maybe hire 1 or 2 people to work on new like related technologies. So like artifact management, so like when you want to deploy, like publish binaries and stuff like that, like CI/CD, so all that sort of stuff, and maybe someone to take over the CRDT stuff also. So that's going to be job postings that we're gonna share with the team, so that you can also help look or spread the word. So that's about it for us. Thanks, Yorgos. It's been a big month. Any questions? Would like to speak. Someone give the man a microphone.
He actually
cool. No,
has it.
I have a mic. I didn't know if you wanted to like call on people, but thanks Cloudhead. This is all like super exciting to see all the progress. I had a question about auto merge, because I'm curious why we're doing our own CRDT, or specifically like what motivated that, because I know auto merge has like a lot of momentum, and like we were working with Alex for a while, so just curious.
I mean, it's always been a sort of something I've been like unsatisfied with, in the sense of like never fully confident that this was the way to go. And part of the reason was there were 2 big reasons. Part of the reason was how hard it would be to kind of specify the way our collaborative objects actually work when there's concurrent updates and conflicts. Or there wouldn't be conflicts with CRDT, but concurrency essentially, because automerge kind of has its own rules, and it's not really, there isn't really an automerge spec yet, at least, and having a good grasp on what happens if 2 comments are posted at the same time, or an edit and a removal is posted, or all of these kind of edge cases, we would kind of have to figure them out by trial and error, essentially. And we wouldn't have much control over them. So yeah, like essentially building our own CRDT lets us decide on all of those cases ourselves, and then specify them in an RIP, and it would allow essentially other users who want to, and other developers rather, who want to support our CRDT to just kind of read that and understand how they should be implementing conflict resolution in those cases. So that was one of the big reasons, and the other big reason is that so one of the big trade-offs with auto-merge has always been that you essentially get conflict resolution for free, but you are working with a generic JSON document. And so what this means is that, like, if you want to do things like validating an update to the document, you have to work within the domain of AutoMerge, not your own domain, and that was that was pretty daunting, essentially, until much better tooling is created for that. You would have to work at a very, very low level to sort of validate whether like a comment redaction is allowed or not, or an untag or a tag is allowed, like things like that. Whereas with our own CRDTs, essentially we're working within our domain, so we can just say, hey, someone is posting a comment, should that be allowed or rejected? We're working within the radical domain, so it makes all of that a lot easier. And just one thing to note is that the way the collaborative objects backend was created is agnostic to what the actual operations are, which means that that part didn't have to change, and it works with both AutoMerge and our own CRDTs. And so we still have the ability to, like, if users want to just kind of have something that just works and they don't have to write their own CRDT, they can still use AutoMerge, and like for their own collaborative objects, right? Like some other type, some that isn't the core radical ones. So they can still do that, and it's supported.
Cool. Thanks a lot. That's really interesting.
Yeah. All right. I think probably
did Steve have a question? DEEV. He had his hand, or they had their hand up.
It's a thumb, not a hand. So I think it's
okay.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Cloudhead. Awesome. Okay, great. Big update. And I heard that we have another big update from the funding team. So I'll pass it right along to Andrew.
Sweet. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Yeah, it's been another exciting month for the funding team. Let me see. I'm going to try to share my screen here. And I'm just going to drive from, I don't have any awesome slides, but I do have kind of a quick update from the post on the community site. And then I'm going to pass it off to Everett to actually give a little demo of the new version of the Drips app. So everyone loves a good demo, right? And it's coming along. But quickly from the high level, I'll just run through, there's a lot happening. So I'm just going to kind of run through from a high level, and then we'll jump to the demo, because I think that'll be fun. But we're up to deployment number 7 on the Goerli testnet with the Drips v2 smart contracts. So, now the changes are just more and more minor, and we're really, really close to being ready for mainnet. A lot of the focus this month from Igor and Manuel has been on security. Igor has continued working with Certora. Manuel was away for a little while, so he was kind of able to come back and do a sort of semi-independent security audit of all the new code. And what was really nice is he found no major issues. So that was encouraging. And then Manuel and LA have also been working on getting some bug bounties in place. I think there's going to be more news about those coming soon, probably launching in the next few weeks. But I think all in all, we're feeling that the security work is in a pretty good state for a mainnet launch. And so yeah, we're really pretty much ready there, which is really exciting. On the SDK, we had some more great progress. Yannis is relentless as always with the development, and we have the alpha release of the Drips v2 SDK. So for anyone out there interested in starting to play around with it, I know we've had a few people even sort of before the alpha taking a look, but now it's in a really nice state for sort of early developers looking to build on Drips who want to play around on the testnet. And you can find the link to the repo here in the discourse post. So yeah, we'd love to hear feedback from anyone who does have a chance to play around with it. There's some great examples in there as well. I've been working on the docs to kind of go with that. We've been improving the docs, the kind of layout of the documentation, and broken out some guides for developers. There's still a lot more work to do, but we're making progress. And there too, if people want to jump in and start working through them, playing around, particularly developers, we'd love to hear what you think. So as I mentioned, a ton of work this month on the Drips v2 web app, and Jason is actually out today. He was feeling sick, but I think Everett is going to give us a little demo. So let me just stop sharing, and yeah, maybe if I'll pass it off to Everett.
Hi there. Yeah, so let's do a little demo. Okay. So this is the landing page that Brandon has developed, a kind of very sharp graphic style for the new Drips v2 app. It also has a dark theme that you can change once you're logged in, or it also just follows your settings. There's still quite a few things that'll probably get changed, but this is generally where things are. So guide you through some features of the protocol. And this is more sort of protocol focused than the V1 version, which was a little bit more app focused. So this then flows you into the SDK and gives some examples of drips and application. And then some space for kind of minor updates. And if we go back to the top, we can go into the app flow. Once you click into the app, you're prompted to connect your wallet, or you can also simply use the search bar to add search like an ENS name or an address, or in the case of our protocol, there's also user IDs. So if you start entering like a number, you would go to this user ID. Let's see. So yeah, if you connect, you're brought to your dashboard, which has a balances section, which keeps track of your tokens with an incoming balance, meaning streams that are coming into your account, and an outgoing balance, being streams that go out. Below that is a stream section where it shows your streams incoming and outgoing, as well as sort of if you've labeled them, anything like this sort of gives a better view for that. And then further down is your splits configuration, which will get touched up a little bit, but would basically will eventually show who's splitting into your account as well as what's being split out of your account. Yes, let's maybe add a token. Gorley is not really slow. When you're adding a token, you'll need to approve the contract. And then after that, it'll give you a confirmation for the contract to withdraw. Come on.
the best part of every demo.
Yeah. Should just pump the gas, I guess. Maybe the future app will have some nice animations or a game that you can play, like in the Chrome dead tab page. Okay, so once that's done, the app is basically querying the subgraph to see if it's like picked up the update. And right now it's a little funky because it keeps refreshing in the background, but we'll work on that. And sometimes it doesn't catch it, but eventually once the subgraph picks it up, you'll see a new token. And so I've added value to my outgoing balance, which then I can use to stream to a different account. So here you can put in an ENS name, select some uni, send a rate, and once you add a rate, we have a nice little drip animation going. You can optionally set a start and end time that is, really dependent on confirmations, but roughly when you want to start things. But we'll skip that for now. Create stream. And then once this confirms, you'd be able to inspect the stream on its own page. So it should be, maybe needs another refresh. And yeah, here we have an animation showing the rate, how much is being streamed total, a start date, or when it started, potential end date. And this gives you a summary of your balance on the entire uni token. There will be an option to like top up. On this page, you can also pause and unpause a stream. And that's kind of about it for right now. You would eventually be able to edit this metadata as well. Yeah, I think just kind of the last thing. Okay, I already ran out of flow. And the last flow is really just seeing. Oops, so I crashed the app. So we'll have to fix that bug. The last sort of sections are once you're logged in, we're on the dashboard, but there's also a profile, which loads kind of ENS information and more or less repeats the same sections that you do get from the dashboard. And I think that's about it for now. But yeah, so still some touch-ups to do, but could demonstrate the dark theme as well as the hacker theme. Let's see, is there any questions? Let's see. Those are the world industry characters, yeah.
Slack coder might have a question. I'm not sure if that was a hand raised. Oh, okay, no problem, no hand. I think everybody was just trying to applaud because really awesome work and super cool. The app looks really, really, really great. LA, did you want to say something?
Everyone's disappointed.
Everybody's just really raising their hands. Cool. Awesome. So any other questions for funding? Or Andrew, did you have more that you wanted to talk about after the demo?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, just thank you so much, Everett. That was a really amazing demo. Yeah, there's just so much here that I think the app really shows off all the, or at least so many of the new features that we have in Drip Speed 2. And it's just, yeah, it's getting me super hyped for the launch. So yeah, thanks for the demo and for all the hard work you guys have done on that. So yeah, I don't think I have anything else. I mean, there's a lot more that we could share, but want to leave time for the rest of the team. So yeah, thanks, Abby. Unless anyone else has questions, I'll pass it back to you. And Everett, you're still sharing, so yeah, if you want to unshare.
Yeah. Sorry.
All good.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really awesome to see all this stuff coming on. I'm very excited for mainnet. Will be a very big milestone for you guys and for the project as a whole. So round of applause all around. Okay, cool. So no more questions. Let's keep it moving. I'll pass it off to growth team next. I think we have Nassar on the call.
And
Not sure.
a crazy plot twist. I will actually be giving a very brief growth update this month.
Fun. Okay,
It's
Shelby,
fun,
take it
right?
away.
Yeah. So, like, surprise. Yeah, Nassar can't speak right now, so I'm just gonna say quickly what he wanted to share. So yeah, this month the growth team has primarily just been focused on like wrapping up the growth efforts and supporting the team transition off to other teams. There is, if you haven't read it or if you haven't seen it yet, Nassar also posted a really great EGF retrospective. I just dropped the link in the chat. Yeah, but they'll be posting a more detailed update on the forum and on Discord soon, kind of going over yeah, wrapping up like the growth team efforts coming soon. So keep an eye out for that. And that's it for now. Unless anyone from the actual growth team would like to share anything else. That's all I was asked to share.
Okay, cool. So I think we can keep it moving then. If anybody from growth wants to chime in with some notes, feel free to drop it in the chat. But I'll take the mic and give a little update on community and governance. So I'll just share my screen. Also turn on the camera since I'm talking. Why not? Cool. Can you guys see my screen? A verbal confirmation would be beneficial.
It's still black, but maybe
Yeah, it
it's
looks
just
black
loading.
to me.
Weird. Is it still black now?
Still black for me. Or I see your face actually. Oh wait, no, now I see.
Okay, I just reshared.
Back to being black.
Really interesting. Okay, Shelby, do you want to try sharing? Because it looks like
Yeah, I can.
the browser might just be. Firefox letting me down. Okay, I can just start. I'll start talking.
No, sorry, it's not. I don't have it on
Yeah.
for Chrome. Sorry. If anyone
No.
else can share the link, I dropped.
Well, the link is in the chat. So I'll you guys just.
I think I could share it, Abby, if you want. It's the one. Let's see here. Is it the eco or no? Where are we?
Just November.
The governance.
Yeah.
Community governance. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me click on it.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, I should use Chrome. Chrome just like blows up my computer. I don't know if anybody else has ever had this problem with it, but.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, cool.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Andrew.
For sure.
Okay, cool. So gonna give an update. Also, lots has been happening over the last month and moving into the next month. I think that now we're really moving into kind of like the final sprint of our first phase of the transition as we start developing the core development org and putting that in place. So I wanted to give a couple kind of updates on that work, but also just highlights for important things that are coming next that I'd like everybody to know about. So basically over the last month, we've been reflecting and using the input and feedback from the DAO planning sessions that we did with you all to inform the next phase of the org design work stream. We're currently in the midst of a very fun design sprint in which we're rapid prototyping different organizational designs that could, based off of the input from the DAO planner sessions and our experience, looking at how other orgs are doing this in the wild. And we're currently heads down in a design sprint, putting together these prototypes for how the core development org could work. Coming out of this process, we'll have basically a couple prototypes that we'll be presenting to contributors for feedback. This will be a really fun process, I think, but also something that we're really looking to get people engaged in. And so that will be kind of where we're going next with the actual design of the working group, is that we're actually moving into a proposal and into the design phase of all of that work. In addition, the working group has heard some of the outstanding concerns regarding what's really on contributors' minds as we move into this transition. And so we've created 2 resources that you're going to be getting an email from me about by the end of this week. One is the contributor tax and financial planning Q&A, which is a set of questions that each individual can use to guide their conversation with their own tax advisor or financial planning expert in their own jurisdiction to start understanding what their individual tax and financial needs are moving into the transition. And then an operational tooling matrix for contributors to help answer their open questions regarding operational needs. Basically, the working group, the org design working group, and the DAO tooling team, basically Shelby and Angie, have been working really hard to create like a curated group of service providers who offer solutions to the needs of our contributors, anything from employers of record to crypto payroll. And we are going to be presenting you with a really digestible way to understand what service providers are available and what solutions do they offer. And in an effort to start understanding what service providers, contributors, and core teams want to start forming relationships with, so we can start onboarding you all. So that'll be a big email. Definitely keep an eye out for it. And we'll be following up that email with a set of town halls so people can get on a call and ask direct questions to these service providers before making a decision about who they want to work with. We've also been working on finalizing our new docs hub. So docs.radicle.xyz, everybody knows that that was deprecated and has kind of been just in this big rework process. We're going to be republishing that around end of January. And so we've been working on creating a lot more of version controlled community and governance documentation to take a lot of stuff out of Notion and put it into a more public repository that can be easily maintained by the core development org and our contributors. It's also going to be an important step towards greater transparency and record keeping for our evolving resources and processes as we move more into governance and keep building more in public. And finally, a really exciting update is that we have we're not working with these dates. Actually, as of today, we've confirmed our contributor offsite for February 2023. We're going to Tenerife from the 19th to the 23rd. I think the 22nd. This is a huge deal. Thank you everybody for dealing with the delay. We were very sad to delay it, but it actually ended up being perfect because we were able to get a really awesome location. Sally has sent out an email to contributors, I think. I don't know if that actually has been sent yet regarding details for how to start planning. But again, those dates are final and confirmed. And so I'd like everybody to start taking a look at that email and start figuring out if they're going to be able to make it. We're going to try to make it a really big thing. It'll be, the first time we're going to have an offsite just dedicated to Radical. So it should be nice, and it's going to be in a warm, sunny, location as well. So yeah, Sally will be sending that this afternoon. Cool. So in terms of governance, I would say that there's been more of a focus on all of our transition work. So not too much happening with regards to governance proposals or updates. We do have some open discussions regarding treasury management with people like Enzyme who have been on the forum. working with different people to explore new ways to fund the project and the protocol through the responsible and risk-adverse management of the assets in our treasury. So Shelby and I have been leading the charge on trying to figure out what our approach to treasury management should be. And so we'll be sharing more of that on the forum as well. In terms of temperature checks, as Shelby said in her growth update, we actually have a retrospective out for the Ecosystem Growth Fund. For people who have joined the project late, the Ecosystem Growth Fund was one of our first DAO-funded initiatives in addition to Radical Grants Program, and Nassar led the charge, and he just shared a really awesome comprehensive retro with lessons learned, details, and kind of outputs of how that EGF went as they start to set their sights on what's coming next. And then we have some open temperature checks that we've already referred to, the Otter Space and the Balancer Public Goods Pool. So in terms of transition to the DAO, as I said, we completed these DAO planner sessions and have been working on this design sprint, which is meant to help us form prototypes that give us and contributors a clearer vision and idea of where roles and responsibilities within the core dev org will lie. And we're going to be sharing these results most likely late next week, and looking for feedback from contributors on kind of what was the output of that design sprint. In terms of DAO tooling, I already went through the main updates here, but we have two kind of sub-tracks within this work stream. The first that I mentioned is the operational tooling, figuring out what operational tools we can be providing our contributors to make sure that it's as easy as possible for them to continue working in the DAO in this new organizational design. And so you'll have two of these resources sent through ideally by the end of the week that will help kind of understand what service providers we can start forming relationships with, and maybe start helping you clarify your individual needs as we move into the transition. And then the second is our governance tooling. We've been constantly improving our governance documentation, updating existing tooling, and are now starting to explore what changes we want to make to governance, general DAO-wide governance, what we want to propose for DAO-wide governance in the transition to the DAO. So we're going to be exploring a lot more governance tooling, anything from onboarding tools to better voting platforms. And Shelby's going to be putting together and making some changes over the next couple of months. And she also wrote a really great update on all of DAO tooling things and has a ton of Notion resources that you can use if you're keen on diving into what we mean by governance tooling. The distribution of ownership work stream, all contributors that the vesting contracts that were allocated to current contributors were launched. And so that was like a big milestone for getting the contributor incentives in place for contributors that were included in this proposal. So big thank you to Cloudhead, Alexi, Angie, and Sally for getting that across the line. Angie is going to be sending an email update this week with vesting contract details, so that's really great. And then finally, the distribution of influence workstream is still in development. OtterSpace has been meeting specifically with Boredom to start figuring out how OtterSpace badges can be tested within the grants org. And so I'm sure we'll be seeing more and learning more about how OtterSpace will be proposing to work with the core development org once we have more detail on how the core development org will actually work. So I think that's it for me. Shelby, please chime in if I'm missing anything. And if not, I'll open it up to any questions.
Nope, good job.
Cool. Any questions? Tenerife, Canary Islands. It's pretty easy to get to. It's the largest island in the Canaries, and we thought it would be somewhere. It's actually in off the coast of Africa, and so it's closer to anybody who's on the U.S. coast. So hopefully we'll be able to get everybody there. But again, yeah, 19th through 22nd. And again, Sally will send all of this information in an email as well. Sure. I don't know what a sneaky link means. Is that for the location? we'll see. But any other questions regarding what we talked about or the transition stuff? Again, a lot of emails are coming, so just if everybody could just like check out their inboxes. If you aren't getting my emails, maybe ping me as well, just so we can make sure we have all the contributor email lists up to date. And yeah, there's a lot of really exciting stuff to come, and I think the offsite will be the culmination of a lot of that. So I'm very excited that we have it all together as well. And yes, the alpha has been dropped in the chat if you kind of want to see where we're staying. Cool. I'll stop there and pass it off to Boredom if Boredom is on the call, if you wanted to give a quick update on grants before we wrap up today.
Yeah, I can. I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to go to the community update. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm going to start with just some of the grants that we funded or started funding. So 2 that got completed. Shout out to Yorgos. He's dominating that spot this month. So they completed delivery of their second iteration of the JetBrains IDE plugin. So if you're a user of that, or if you're touching any of the products that they're using, like mostly the client's team, definitely check it out. They also sent over some really great like wireframes and research and user surveys to start on Visual Studio. This one's really exciting for anyone who doesn't know. It's one of the most used IDEs, so having a plugin there is going to be really, really great. I think for kind of acquiring people, they'll kind of be able to look at their current tools and say, hey, Radicle plugs into that. So that's awesome. With that, once they finish that user research, they've started, and we sent over initial funding to start building the Visual Studio plugin. So you can keep track of that as they update that grant application page. And then Chris, who we a while back sent over like a retroactive grant for doing a really great blog post about installing Radicle. He was interested in researching binary storage, which Cloud had kind of alluded to earlier. So we just sent over the initial funding to start that. So those are kind of in progress, basically. And then Abby alluded to it. We're starting to work with Otter Space. We originally funded their grant to kind of get their product off the ground. And I'll be posting this in a lot more technical detail after the call. But basically what we've done with them so far is we've got like, they run off of non-transferable tokens, save for the admin token, which is transferable. But we've got the admin token from them. And then we've started setting up, so creating and configuring badges, as they're called, these non-transferable tokens. So we've set those up for the grants. So that includes grants team members, so people who sit on the multi-sig, and we'll be sending them out to future grantees as well as retroactively giving them out to grantees. So we've created all those badges. I've got a badge for myself. I'm starting to send them to other committee members and as well as grantees. And I'll send more technical details and like kind of how we're planning to use them. But we're basically kind of just starting to get it configured at this point. And we're gonna start testing it out and using it to help distribute the voting power when we're looking at grants. So kind of like waving a magic wand, but the idea is at some point in the near future, as an example, Yorgos is a really active community member. He doesn't actually sit on the multi-sig, but he'll have a badge. If he wanted to vote on a grant because he thinks it's important, then his vote would count, right? So it's just a way to distribute the voting power amongst the community members without explicitly having someone on a multi-sig. So it kind of gets rid of a lot of the overhead that we'd normally have with trying to include input from N number of people. And the plan in the further future, like Abby said, is like to try and get this adopted more widely. So taking the same exact example, it might be something like someone from the client's team sees a grant up for a vote. They could give their input via the badge. So the badging kind of helps to take care of the administration of that governance power. So anyways, I'll be posting a lot more details in the next few hours, but that's the gist of it and where we're at.
Awesome. Any questions for Boredom? Cool. Yeah, it's great to see so many awesome grants. Chris, it's great to have you working on Grant Yorgos.